Hi, Bob. Welcome to the unofficial For All Mankind podcast, an immersive timeline experience from 2003 to 2012. I am your host, William D. Talixon. This podcast is all about the Apple TV Plus alternate history television show For All Mankind, which poses the question, what if the Soviets landed on the moon first? If you haven't watched the show yet, please do so first. It is phenomenal. The show features great characters, emotional scenes, flawless direction and writing, and epic action. It pays homage to previous sci-fi shows in space history, making it one of the most underrated television shows currently on television. If you have watched the final episode of Season 4, Perestroika, skip to listen. If you haven't watched Season 4, please watch it first to avoid spoilers. Okay, so I just want to let you know there is no music this time. Unfortunately, I'm not in that studio, so there'll be no music. So when there is a pause like that before the perestroika and before when I'm talking now, just know that that was when music was going to play. But unfortunately, it isn't. So just to recap what happened in the last podcast episode, we recapped Season 4, talked about new casting additions, and speculated what would happen in the For All Mankind universe in 2004. So if you haven't listened to that episode, please go back now because there are amazing features that I just love that episode. So just to clarify, former NASA asset to NASA, Nelson Bradford, who we saw in Season 2 of For All Mankind, worked alongside Margot and Ellen, defeated Al Gore in the 2004 presidential election. Margot Madison was sentenced up to 20 years in prison, a concert in space, and so much more. Before we talk about what might happen in 2005, I do have new casting updates that I want to share from you. So there were significant casting additions from the last time I recorded it. So we have Sean Kaufman from The Summer I Turned Pretty playing the grown-up Alex in Season 5. And I hope his fame of whatever will bring more viewers to For All Mankind instead of rooting for Bella and Conrad versus that other dude, whatever his name is. You can root for Gordo and Tracy instead and our NASA astronauts that work so hard. I heard he was a good part of the show, but I'm not into that kind of stuff. I tend to stay away from whatever gunk people are watching today. Also, the third is an actress playing one of Toby Kebbell's grown-up kids, possibly a love interest for Alex, I don't know. And there is one more. A new actress, I don't know her name, is playing a U.S. Marine preparing for a new space mission. So in the last episode, I mentioned that there was a Reddit leak that a space mission to Titan might be happening in Season 5. For now, I'm thinking about integrating it into the podcast, but not for this episode or the next two. Now, this episode is dedicated to events happening in 2005 in the For All Mankind universe. Remember, this is just all speculation. Ben and Matt might have different ideas or even might use any ideas I have. I honestly don't care. Please use it. Please tell me my ideas are so bad. I could honestly care less. This will be history accurate and will give an in-depth look at what may happen in the year 2005. Ready to get your Goldilocks on? This episode is all about 2005. So, in January 2005, I just want to pay homage to one of my other favorite television shows, Battlestar Galactica. So, Battlestar in our world premiered in October 2004, but I'm just going to have it premiere in 2005 just for the heck of it. So, in January of 2005, the first episode of Ronald D. Moore's Battlestar Galactica premiered on NBC, reinvigorating interest in the space race. It brought huge ratings and created several careers for its stars of Mary McDonnell, Katie Sackhoff, Tricia Heffler, and Grace Park. Airing on NBC, several characters from the show are inspired by influential figures from the U.S. space race, such as Laura Roslin, inspired by President Ellen Wilson, Starbuck based on Molly Cobb, and Bill Adama based off Ed Baldwin. The 2003 miniseries actually featured a cameo in this world by Ellen Wilson herself as a civilian fleeing Caprica 1 during the Cylon invasion. The show went on to win 32 Emmy Awards in this universe, including 3 for Best Drama and 4 acting awards in a row for Mary McDonnell as President Laura Roslin. Cylons, can we have enough of them? We move on to February 2005. The iPhone is approved 2 years earlier than in our timeline at an Apple Expo weekend in California by Apple CEO Steve Jobs. This new phone is a technological revolution that will connect people from across the globe with a single text and has the power to connect people from other planets, implementing the technological advancement of 6G Wi-Fi. I don't even think we have 6G in our world, so I just made that up. Jobs had been a revolutionary at Apple, having been the CEO since 1977, staying with the company in this timeline. He was responsible for creating governmental technology essential to the Mars 94 missions and was able to create connections on Mars and the Moon, and revolutionized the D-Mail chat, which made it easier for people to chat on home computers through video messages. Great. So we move on to March. Great Britain decides to leave the European Union in the decision that became known as Brexit. Brexit happened 16 years earlier than what had happened in our timeline. Prime Minister Tony Blair said this was years in the making as Great Britain had an unexpected rise in the economy and trade agreements set the country on the world stage. After giving back Hong Kong to China in 1997, the agreement improved jobs in the remaining coal industry in Wales that still produce cars that run on fossil fuels in the OPEC-banned countries in the Middle East. Coming in a month later, a month after Brexit, Great Britain exited the European Space Agency and instead formed their own space program called the BCCS, which stands for the British Commonwealth Countries for Spaceflight, which included Great Britain, Ireland, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, as well as members from other Commonwealth countries across the world. The new space program would join the M7 Alliance, which would become the M8 Alliance, and planned to have embassies on both the Moon and Mars by the end of the decade. Coming up to May of 2005, after years of trying to get it passed in Congress, minimum wage is raised to a whopping $15 in the United States. This comes after a rise in the space economy and with prospects of iridium deposits mined on Goldilocks will boom the U.S. economy in the coming years. President Bradford calls this decision momentous as it will improve the low unemployment rates from the previous oil sectors and promise to create more jobs on Earth from the people in previous oil sectors and on the Moon and beyond. We come up to June, we have some alternate history changes. Michael Jackson is found guilty of 14 counts of child abuse in his criminal trial, The People of the State of California versus Michael Joe Jackson. He is sentenced to 18 months in prison and $500,000 in probation and has to register on the sex offender list for the next 5 years. Geez, you can't beat him, MJ. We move on to July. Instead of the suicide bombings happening in London, it happens in New York. 4 suicide bombing attacks detonate in the New York subway systems on July 7th, 2005, killing 30 and injuring over 1,000 people. This causes all other trains on the system to stop abruptly and cause a blackout across New York City for 2 days. This is the worst domestic terrorist attack since the bombing at the Johnson Space Center a decade ago, which killed 195 people, including Molly Cobb and Karen Baldwin. The suspects were members of a Saudi nationalist group that wanted to protest the ongoing Saudi war over the U.S. blocking embargoes of oil, which led to the civil war the capital of Saudi Arabia. President Bradford calls for a day of mourning and said that he won't declare war on Saudi Arabia as members are looking to reach a ceasefire. This day becomes known as 7/7. It is a day that will live in the heart, that people will remember for years, along with the bombing of Johnson Space Center. We move on to August now. Hurricane Katrina makes landfall in New Orleans. Different from our world, new technology, similar to the ones that detected the Indian tsunami last year, detected the catastrophic hurricane, and President Bradford ordered a full evacuation of New Orleans as the levees broke and the waters began to rise. This saved many lives from the hospitals but destroyed low African American communities. Bradford promised for rebuilding neighborhoods through the Army Corps of Engineers, Habitat for Humanity, and he himself would come and survey the damage and would help rebuild in the process. He planned this increased Bradford's approval ratings to a whopping 62%. Good for you, Bradford. Way better than the other president we had. Okay. So we move on to September 2005. The Mayflower Connection is created by DeVayasa to bring thousands of families to Mars for low prices that will build a sustainable Mars colony. So with Goldilocks in the expansion to season 4 press sequence, we can guess that colony is possibly very big. So here we go. With an increase of iridium on Goldilocks, workers are needed to benefit the upcoming boom in the global economy. The new project will expand Happy on Mars by 5 times the size. The expansion will include master dormitories, cafeterias, restaurants, shops, businesses, gyms, conservatories, greenhouses, libraries, pools, movie theaters, and a school to teach young children. It will build a spaceport to transport workers to Goldilocks and Korolev Research Center. I guess it promises this will be ready at the end of the decade. So normally I have events for October and November, but unfortunately I don't have any events for October and November 2005. They pretty much, let's just say it's pretty much the same, but I do have an event for December. The moment you have all been waiting for. In December 2005, Calypso, which is being hailed as Starship by the media, breaks the speed record on the amount of people traveling for interplanetary spaceflight. 9 days and over 120 people. This transport ship can carry up to 300 passengers, which consists of families and entire workers to Mars and space astronauts, and would be able to transport over 30 billion tons of iridium back to Earth. This will make the Mayflower Connection sustainable on Mars and will help build a permanent colony on Mars. And that is how 2005 came to a close, with a starship going beyond the cosmos. 2006 will see new scientific discoveries, a planet being demoted, and big changes happening on Earth. That is all for this time. Can't wait to see you next time. I hope you enjoyed talking about the year 2005. Let me know if you agree with my predictions and put any stuff you want to see in For All Mankind Season 5. Until next time, thanks to Aaron Parker and Slacer Newsroom. Bye, Bob. So long.